Let's go out to Ohio. We've got him, James, giving us a call. Is a theist, wants to talk about the resurrection. James, what is up? You were chatting with SR and JMike.
I was on here last week, wasn't I?
I think so.
No, sorry, wasn't I? I was on there last week.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember calls, so like voices and names. So maybe we've talked before.
Either way, it sounds like you have a cool topic to touch on today, James. What evidence for the resurrection of Jesus do you have? We're definitely interested.
Well, first of all, I'd like to mention that the resurrection is basically something that, if happened, whether you believe it or not, it's something that would have been in the past. So there's no way we could directly observe it. But the resurrection has two possibilities. Either it happened or it did not. That's the way it works for a lot of things. Either it is or it isn't. Okay, but if the resurrection did happen, then that means supernatural can happen, stuff like that. If the resurrection did not happen, then you could say, oh, well, the New Testament writers lied or they were mistaken or something like that. But I feel like there's a problem with saying that they were mistaken because, like, if they were mistaken, they could have easily been corrected by their enemies, probably by getting shown Jesus' body. But that's not like a main thing against that I'm gonna say. But also, they weren't expecting a resurrection because even though Jesus had told them that he would resurrect, like it says in Luke 24, 6-8. It wasn't until verse.
Hang on just a second, James. Before we go too far down this route, because almost everything you've said thus far, I've heard verbatim from many different people over the years. I could list off a bunch of names of apologists right now, but I don't even think it's necessary.
What's not my main?
I've heard JMike say something in the past that I really, really like, where he says, if you come over to my house and you show me all these reasons why my TV doesn't work, you've done nothing to demonstrate that your TV does. And so instead of just wasting time on all these things about where you're like, well, they couldn't have been lying because people could have easily shown them the body, and well, these stories were so early on, so it couldn't have been made up way later. Why not just show us about your TV? Like, our TV's broken. That's fine. That's okay. It sucks, But tell us about yours. You said you've got evidence that proves the resurrection, evidence for the truth of the resurrection. Let's just hit that, James.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Okay, well now I'd like to look at the documentational evidence for Jesus, which I don't know how you guys feel about, but anyway.
We're perfectly fine with accepting Jesus existed for the sake of the argument. We just want to know what you think constitutes evidence. And not looking at the infinite amount of other explanations that you don't agree with, because that would just be a daunting task we'll never get through. So we could just kill all of the, hypothesis birds with one argument stone, right? And just by giving that evidence.
I like that. Hypothesis birds argument. I like that. Okay. Go ahead, James.
I'm not talking about just like Jesus existing. I'm talking about also him resurrecting too. And so I was saying that Jesus basically couldn't have, and this is what this one guy's name is, Dr. Alexander Metherell, I think. Sorry, I just learned about him a little bit ago. But anyway, so he was talking about how Jesus could not have survived what he had gone through. And so that means that if Jesus is resurrected, then the only way would be a supernatural cause.
Why?
Because
why is it? What have you done to demonstrate the connection between those statements?
Yeah, I don't see the entailment.
What do you mean?
You said that if Jesus did, so again, JMike and I are gonna say a couple of things here. We're gonna say, for the sake of this, man, we totally agree. Jesus was a person, and Jesus was crucified by Romans. Okay, in that area of the world, in that time period. Heck, I'll even grant you that he was a well-known apocalyptic preacher that had a bunch of people that followed him. I give you all of that. Okay, and I'll definitely give you that he died as a result of the process of crucifixion. But then you said something that really made my ears perk up, which is, you said, if he resurrected, that would have to be supernatural. And all I'm saying is, I have no idea how you've made that connection. How did you make that connection?
Well, do you see people rising from the dead naturally? No, people don't rise
Zero.
from the dead typically.
Well, no, I
Nature.
don't. But just because we currently don't see people rising from the dead naturally, it would be a black swan fallacy to say that it can't happen that people rise from the dead naturally, right? That's too far of a statement on the other side. And what you've done is you've just ruled that out and just picked this other idea that you like that says, well, then it's got to be supernatural. How do you know there's not some aspect of nature that we haven't discovered yet that could do this? Right? How do you know that we don't have sufficiently advanced alien technology amongst us right now that's accomplishing this? How have you determined that this actually qualifies as an event that violates the laws of nature as we know them? Because that's what supernatural is.
Well, you see, that wouldn't be natural then. If we did have some type of technology, if we did at some point make some technology, that'd be technology that we made. That wouldn't be natural. That wouldn't be.
How is so? You're using the word natural in a different way than I am here. Okay. So when I'm saying that technology is natural, what I'm saying is that it doesn't go outside the norms of the laws of the universe and logic and physics and those types of things. Supernatural, by definition, does. So us creating super cool technology like this awesome little camera in front of me and this cutesy microphone, like that's not non-natural. It's not unnatural. If you're using the word natural just to mean like plants and animals that people don't make, like cool, but I don't think that's the helpful usage of that term in this context, because you're not making a distinction between human created things and non-human created things, right? Or I'm sorry, non-human created things. So like, microphones versus trees, you're making a distinction between the laws of nature as we know them in their current state and anything that's outside of that. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about a human resurrecting. You're not talking about the difference between, a water bottle and again, a tree.
I just want to say, like, I understand. I don't want to stay on this. Like, I mean, I understand what you're saying about like the technology and stuff like that, but I wanted to talk about like the resurrection too. I didn't want to.
No, we will. The reason why we're speaking up is that you had made this like necessary entailment from some proposition that there's someone that resurrects and therefore it's supernatural. What you would have a better, like if you had a more humble approach with it, it'd be like it's more likely, right? Or it's expected under the hypothesis. But you're trying to say that like it's a necessary entailment when if we could like reverse cell death or something with some tech and we just did it in front of us, there'd be no sense of adding this extra postulate like as working within the person who helped like revive a life or something, right? It would be just an unnecessary postulate. The point is if you want to just say that that's the entailment, you're going to have to provide some argument that gets you to that proposition that concludes that. As far as it stands, it's a non sequitur, right? It doesn't follow that like it's supernatural or it's natural. You have to make your case for it. Merely just asserting that it is isn't really like an argument or any support. I'd be happy to like in other contexts to support, like just concede that. But it's important because it's not a necessary entailment. It's just false. But yeah, go ahead with what your evidence is, because I think we've beaten the whole. This doesn't follow from those set of statements.
Okay. Well, anyways, what I was saying now about like the resurrection and stuff like that. So I was talking about documents and stuff like that, different things. And I'm not talking about just Jesus living. I'm not talking about just Jesus dying. I was talking about. Oh, by the way, are you guys trying to like make a natural or give a natural answer?
No, we just
different things like resurrections.
No, we just want don't worry about any of the naturalistic explanation. We just worry about what supports your view, right? Like I have nothing to do with why you think you're supported. We've never talked before. So like why would me, in my opinion, have anything to do with the support that you supposedly have, right? I never entered into your support prior to you talking to me.
Okay. Well, do you believe?
I only say that because this is how all resurrection conversations happen, and it's so annoying. Like, don't worry about the naturalists like not being able to explain it. They can just say, "I don't have an explanation." That doesn't mean, therefore, we should be Christians and accept that it happened. You have all of your work left ahead of you to do.
Do you believe that if the resurrection happened,
just don't even worry about?
No, I don't.
The idea of a resurrection, is that a miracle?
It's not question time. It's you supporting your argument time. It's not 20 question time. I don't know how asking a question is supporting your claim. Like there's like literally shorts on our channel of me saying this to like several people.
Okay, well, I'm trying to talk about the resurrection.
Great. So talk
So
about it
do
by
that.
not
So tell
asking
us-
me things that I have attitudes towards, and start giving me stuff that you have attitudes towards, like something that justifies the proposition. Right. So far, we've gotten nothing.
Okay, well, I believe that miracles can happen, and I believe that since God exists, miracles are possible. And I'm saying since right there. I'm going to give some evidence for that too. So there are several arguments for God.
Hold on. I was asking about a resurrection. Now we're stacking something else on top of it. Can we go to the first claim, or is it going to turn out by like the end of it, I have 8 like foreign ontological or metaphysical claims that I'm like, what the hell even is this stuff? And I have to sift through all like 8 of those things. Why can't we just go with this one thing? Why can't you support this thing? Like presumably, like you don't have to add more weight to your theory by talking about miracles now. Like now all we're doing is just like inflating our economy so much.
Why the resurrection would be a miracle though, so it would apply. Because I'm saying that I think I would show how God exists, and then God exists. That means miracles are possible. Thus, the resurrection would happen.
If you prove God exists, then we'll just go home. God exists. But like, presumably, you're trying to get us to the Christian God in virtue of some like, reason that supports the claim that he died and Yahweh was responsible for it, right? Resurrected. Merely just giving an example by that he resurrected, we're just trying to get with. But then you have a further entailment that like it was done by Yahweh and not some other agent, right? So, but we're just sticking with the first one. First one is that he resurrected. Great. So what supports that? So far we've gotten, what do I think about stuff? Okay, that doesn't work. So, and then we get the next thing we got is, well, I think God exists because there's miracles. Okay, that's great. All of that stuff that you're giving as reasons is stuff that I don't already accept. If you want to move the person you're talking to closer to your position, you have to give reasons of stuff that they potentially could accept. Telling me stuff about miracles and God, I'm going, I don't accept that stuff. How in the hell could that ever convince me of the truth of this position? You're just like, I'm already like, oh man, it's like an astrologer comes up to me and wants to talk to me about astrology. And then they start talking about other things in astrology. I'm like, wait, hold on. Right. So what's the evidence?
The evidence for the resurrection?
Yes.
That's
what we're going for.
Okay, well, I was trying to tie that in with if God exists, miracles are possible, and so that would tie in. I wasn't trying to go off into other things, and like I was just saying that if God exists, which I would show how, that is how, or that would show that miracles are possible and Jesus resurrected. But anyways, I want to go on talking about the
that's just trivial. If God exists, he can do a lot of stuff. That's just trivial.
Let's get to the resurrection, because here's the thing. I absolutely think you can still have evidence in a theoretical sense. I think you could have evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ without demonstrating that a God has to exist to make that possible, right? There are things out there that we could have, like for instance, just throwing this out there. I know, audio video recording didn't exist back then, but if we had a fucking video of Jesus dying and then the time lapse of 3 days of him being in the ground and then like clawing his way out like a zombie, like none of that requires a God to be evidence, man. So like, is there anything that you can just point to, like, hey, there was this super well attested event that we have 500 plus individualized accounts of, or something, like anything along those lines? That would be the best.
The Gospels.
So what is the earliest date of the earliest gospel? What order do they go in, and how far away from supposedly Jesus's death?
By the way, this is just seemingly like question begging. If we're just like, it's saying like, look, I'm asking. The claim is made in the Gospels, and then I'm asking you to support it, and then you go back to the thing that claims it.
Right.
Okay. Well, anyway, so like, what are you asking me to do right now?
to give a non-question begging.
Do the thing that you called in. You said you wanted to do, James. We didn't ask to talk about the resurrection with you. You woke up today and said, I want to present evidence for the resurrection. And thus far, you haven't brought anything at all. And the one time you just tried, like JMike said, it was literally you just saying, well, the claim is there, so it must be true. So is there anything that you have? If not, we do have a bunch of other really good calls, it looks like.
I'm okay with moving on. This isn't, we're not, no offense, but this is like not, there's, it's, you're risking me going like further away from believing that this is true right now. Like, right. And that's like bad reasoning on my part.
Sending him into Satan's arms, James. Come on. Don't do that.
Like look, I would just call back. I'd love to talk about this, but it can't be something where what supports your belief is other stuff that already is like assumed to be true within the view, right? Like, of course, that has like some internal consistency and coherency, but it could never move a non-believer because they don't believe those things. It's like being like, hey, I think that secular rarity made it to the top of the building the other day. And I'm like, oh, okay. How did he make it up to the top of the building the other day? And you're like, well, because astrology is true or something like that. And then I'm like, well, okay, that's a non sequitur. That was the first thing. They just don't even apply. But then it's even worse than that, because then you tell me like, okay, well, I think that astrology is true. And this book that talks about astrology made the claim, and that's why it's true, right? It's like, I'm not getting anything independent. Like if I was a biologist, I wouldn't say read chapter 13 of the biology textbook. That proves that there's allelic frequencies, that change in a population over time, evolution. I would be like, hey, the claim is there, but then you can actually go out and do some work. There's like a Hardy-Weinberg equation. You can actually see how much evolution is occurring in a population. And all of that would be attestation for the claim independent of what some book says, right? Like, but all we have so far is like a book says a thing. Great. Okay. Yeah. Books say lots of things.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to make too much more progress, James. So, thank you for giving us a call. We appreciate it. Give us a call back in the future. But my suggestion would very much be rewatch this. Like, let a couple days go by and rewatch this, and then count up the number of arguments that you presented